Welcome to the Citizen Mike Show. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. My name is Mike Brodinski, and somewhere on that split screen is the Vice Chair of the Wallingford Town Council, Tom Laffin. Tom, welcome back to the show. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, so on April 12, Tuesday night, a 5-hour plus meeting.
Yeah.
I watched it over 2 sittings, one at night and one in the morning. One of the marquee issues was community pool. You took that up. Review for us what happened.
Sure. Councillor Testa motioned with an amendment from friendly amendment accepted from Councillor Tatum to that we would rebid the other project for the plan, but also take offers to repair the existing condition of the existing design of the pool. And to save everybody the 2.5 hours, it ended us passing the council. Now the debate is, what will happen with that. We can't compel the mayor to necessarily do that. It's kind of just us indicating that this is where all the support is for going out to bid like this with the pool.
So the vote was 8-0.
Yeah, and Councillor Zandi was not there, but he would have supported the motion.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a surprise, the vote 8-0. But I want your prognosis. What are the odds of it going out to bid as you guys?
Odds, I don't know.
Man, you're my
expert for this. Not zero. It's everybody kept saying, no, it's not going to happen without ARPA, and that isn't true. I don't know the odds. It's we were so close at one point getting it, and then COVID took another kick. It was just, I don't know. I really can't tell you. I would love for that project to be in motion this summer and open for next year. I'm hoping the mayor will look through everything. Maybe it depends on how the budget season goes. How violent does it feel? Odds, I really don't know. I probably, God. I mean, I'm always optimistic, and people always say, like, oh, I'm too optimistic.
So the mayor was asked, the mayor was prodded, I think, on more than one occasion. Mayor, if we pass this, are you going to send that out to bid? I think Vinny Testa pounded him as much as he possibly could, and the mayor wiggled and waggled and refused to commit, which in mayor speak is no, I'm not sending it out to bid. The mayor's rationale was, well, we have to get through the ARPA process first, which could take through 2024. Maybe not, but it could because of just developments to be discussed. But after that, the mayor could say, well, the times aren't right. It's still unsettled. So, I mean, the odds are, I think, it's not going to go out to bid as long as Mayor Dickinson is mayor. Your reaction to what I said, and then I got a follow-up question for you.
I am hopeful, and I will be talking to him too to try and get him to go out to bid sooner than that. I interpreted the ARPA thing to be when this process is in motion, not necessarily to the end of the whole funding cycle and project.
Okay.
Which we can talk about. There was 90 minutes of trying to discuss having ARPA funds paid to use the pool, and then that whole debate which carried over during the actual ARPA agenda item, and then the debate with the law department as well, whether we even had the complete authority to do anything different than what we were doing now.
So a short answer on this one, it seems like the majority of the councilors do not want to use ARPA funds for the pool. True?
I would say true, yes.
Okay. Now the question is, if I was the mayor, I just want to run the strategy by him. Maybe I would send it out to bid, knowing the bids are going to come back astronomically high for a lot of reasons. Then as mayor, I say, we just can't afford this. I did what you wanted. You can't even get a majority on the council to support it because the prices are too high. And that might be a good strategy for the mayor to actually send it out to bid, and that's the end of it. What do you think?
He could. I didn't say it like that, but I did kind of say, let's send it out and find out what it is. Where are we? Let's benchmark it, was the phrase I used.
All right. So this was put on by Vinny Testa, but is this nothing more than political grandstanding? I mean, the mayor was never going to admit, oh yeah, I'll put it out to bid. Thank you guys for that 8-0 vote. I mean, what was the point of all this? Why do it?
could argue that, but I think in this case, it was an indication both to the mayor and to the community, though, that the council, where we were on this. So I think it was important there. I don't think, maybe for some, it was political. I don't know that that was the result. I think there was a genuine communication being made that we are in support of where this project would go. Everybody kind of even talked about, not everybody, but a lot of people talked about where they were at the beginning of the process and how they evolved to where they are now.
Okay. Still in the back of my mind, I wonder if we're any closer after the vote than we were before the vote. But before you answer that, I want to run another thought by you. What bothers me about this vote is that it's great politics, but lousy governance. You know, if a pool developer understood the dynamics of the town and they knew that this was for political purposes only, the mayor was never going to accept a bid. Either I just wouldn't bid, or I'd throw the bid in so high because I wouldn't feel like I don't want to waste my time, shaving the bid down and being real careful. Yeah. So it's just sort of the notion of putting something out to bid without serious intent kind of bothers me.
Yeah, we've had a problem in the last 2 to 3 years, I guess 2 years, talking about numbers out in public. We talked about the original pool number. Oh, and what did it come back at? Like the high end of what we talked about, after we pared it down. Yeah. So we had a high number and then we pared it down, sent it out. And what came back was the numbers we originally talked about in public, but with the pared down. I mean, I think I commented on that last night. It was either about this item or the next item, agenda item. It was like, well, you got to stop talking about all these numbers in public. And it even came back around later. Let's use $8 million of ARPA money. Well, now it's $8 million. We just told the world that we'll spend $8 million on this pool.
Yeah. All right.
It's frustrating.
I was going to change the subject on you and go to ARPA, the gift that keeps on giving. Let's do this. Start with a bottom line results. I mean, this took maybe a 3-hour, 4-hour discussion. Let's work backward. How did it end? And then we'll come to the beginning.
Sure. And this is it's like the 5th or 6th time I've said this today, because I've received multiple phone calls and at the various meetings I've been to today alone. The final outcome was that the council agreed, the full council agreed upon the starting point was subcommittee's recommendations. The final outcome was that the consultant will take the draft applications for businesses and nonprofits and projects for nonprofits programs, make the adjustments that the council subcommittee put together and then the full council tweaked, and amend that. They're going to add another twist to it that really came up in the discussion of the experience of the consultant from the last time that we spoke with him and working with municipalities up to this point, including Meriden next door, that a lot of these projects and applications are for forward thinking, forward motion activities, not necessarily like restitution of funds spent out of savings accounts and things like that. So he's gonna twist that application forward, put everything in the system, in the portal, ready to go. Get the finals back to us, final draft back to us for any amendments, and then we're going to push a button. And in the meantime, the subcommittee is going to re-meet and determine a recommendation to go to the full council at the same time as the release the applications button on the committee or committees that will adjudicate or determine how the funds will be awarded.
You use the word forward-looking. There was some question about that at the council meeting as to what that meant. I think I know what it means, but if you could summarize what that means as contrasted with what the opposite of that is.
Yeah. So a business, instead of saying I spent $50,000 out of my savings to get to this point and survive, they may put forward a plan or request for a project that would be like $30,000 for roofing or HVAC or a new kitchen thing or something to kind of move forward, something that money, had it been saved appropriately, and it would have been used for, instead of thinking of it as just filling back a savings account, it's more like, okay, you're going to get it, but you got to spend it. It's not just to go back into people's accounts. In the nonprofit world, which we were more towards anyway, again, not restitution, but programs or projects going forward. I guess they could be capital projects, but at the same time, what are you going to do? What could you do to help people? We actually eliminated the individual portion. Instead of the town awarding individuals any money, the nonprofits will kind of do that through the nature of their programs.
Yeah. So I see this as a 180-degree reversal, and I don't quite understand how. I mean, it's a welcome development, but the council turned on a dime from lost revenues. That's it. Lost revenues is the only criteria you were looking for. There's still no cap on the grant, no maximum amount on the grant. That's still in there. But you went from lost revenues, which almost everyone had, rich businesses, poor businesses, to something completely different, something that had nothing to do with lost profits or lost revenues, to, if we give you the money, what sort of fixed asset or program going forward are you going to use it for? Have I summed that up accurately? I mean, is that?
Yeah, and I think the turn on that was part of the presentation and discussion with the consultant, and knowing that this is also what everybody else is doing, the other municipalities, that this isn't, and this is also an easier thing for all of us to digest. I mean, what we were really handed to start working with was kind of the restitution angle, and we did, like I said before, for the nonprofits, we did talk about going forward projects and programs there. We had just not really applied it to the businesses for whatever reason, and so that we're just adjusting to accommodate that.
Okay, but
and the no cap we talked about, you mentioned. What came up in discussion without official decision, because that will be next time, is it looks like our cap won't be a dollar cap per application, but it will be an application period of 60 to 90 days. We'll determine that. I would favor 90 days, 60 to 90 days. And then when all that is said and done, we'll have all of the applications, and then we'll be able to dole out. We'll know what we want to dole out, and we can certainly call people in and say, you asked for $1 million, and we don't feel like we can do that, but what would you do with 300, or something like that?
Yeah. So the consultant recommended a cap. He didn't say I recommend a cap, but he did illustrate the chaos that can result when you don't have a cap. And he also said, expect, if you don't have a cap, a lot more asks, a lot larger requests than if you did not have a cap, and that puts you in a position of having to cut back. So, cut back on a grant. So if I'm hearing, I'm a business and I'm hearing, hey, there's no cap, instead of going for the $40,000 project to get that little machine that maybe would make your business more productive, let's go for $1 million machine. There's no cap. And so now fewer people are going to be able to get the benefit of this money because there's no limit. To me, there is absolutely no wisdom in leaving it open-ended like that. And the consultant's recommendation would probably side with me. But you're on the upper part of that screen, if we still have that split screen, and you see a great wisdom in having no cap. The sky is the limit. Explain that.
I see a benefit to getting a genuine, like, what do people need or want? Now, the no
Well,
cap,
I just gave you an illustration. I got a choice. I can put in for a $40,000 machine or $1 million machine. I'll put in for the $1 million.
So the questions include what were revenues between this year, and how does it compare to the beginning before pandemic? How does it compare during, and where are we now? A company that comes forward that showed a loss of $50,000 and they're asking for $1 million, if they're not going to get the $1 million, They're not even gonna get the 40. I mean, you're looking for some sort of like below that grade. I mean, and that's gonna be up to the committee to decide. Now, as a council and the subcommittee, we were never at that point of determining that last night. We were trying to get the drafts because we knew it was going to take at least 2 weeks functionally, operationally, to get those drafts prepared and to go online. And we knew that the 2 weeks in between would be to button up this other stuff. So we may decide to put a cap on the applications themselves or the deadline thing. Right now, I'm kind of thinking deadline thing, but that's not to say that the rest of the council would agree with me or that I couldn't be convinced.
Yeah, I was really surprised that the consultant is basically telling you put a cap on it or you're looking for trouble, and no counselor moved to discuss a cap. Shocking, really, it was shocking. At least it deserved some discussion. Didn't even get into discussion. And then at your subcommittee meeting, you managed those quite well. I don't think a cap is going to come up. What do you think? Why don't you bring it up? Bring up a cap.
Oh, well, yeah.
Maximum
We have
amount.
to figure out the final stages. We need confirmation on caps, and there has to be some sort of ceiling, right? Whether it's a dollar amount or a time frame or both.
Or both. Yeah.
So it'll all be discussed. Councilor Tata, I think, did ask how many towns have a cap, how many don't. He said it was like 50-50, I think.
Yeah.
He used the example of a town with $29 million in ARPA funds received $84 million in grants. I mean, to me, I don't see myself having a problem if I'm on the committee of turning people down. I mean, that's part of the strategy too. Like, don't apply for something don't apply for $1 million and expect a 13th of our entire allotment. You know what I mean? Like, so if you want it, think of something that's reasonable and that you can stand behind, and that we'll all be won over by. Otherwise, you're going to lose out completely.
Income tax returns were discussed briefly. Walk us through what the consultant said about income tax returns, and then I got a follow up for you.
Yeah. So they weren't really on our on the detail form. There was a tax, form return thing, a filing for nonprofits that was included.
Talking about businesses now, actually. So I just want to stick with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll review. I mean, I don't know. What do you want to say about it? Just that.
What do you say? What do the consultants say about income tax returns? And then what are your thoughts? And then I'll give you mine.
That that we have a right to look at it, or it's public, that type of thing. Is that what you mean? Not public, but that we have a right to consider it. Is it considering that we're giving them money? Is that what you mean?
Well, let me recap what I heard, and then I'll get you to react. Someone asked about income tax returns. I don't know who that was. And the consultant said, well, some communities do require income tax returns. And of course they do. We've seen it online. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
But he said, then the consultant went on to say, but it adds another layer of complexity. That's my word, not his word. He says, you got to be, consider the confidentiality issue. It puts more of a burden on businesses, and the whole thing was inconvenient. And I'm saying, inconvenience? That's the best argument you've got against having people verify what they claim is their loss. But then I said, but at the end of the show, end of your meeting, I said, it's not as important to have income tax returns because you're not even, granting for lost revenues anymore or lost profits anymore. And all you're doing is, looking for projects. And I guess you're going to weight the rich business, the wealthy guys and the poor guys equally. Means doesn't matter, whether they're struggling or not doesn't matter. So I say, okay, maybe you don't need income tax returns. So talk to me about that.
I mean, it came up, and then we were flipping through again because we had talked about it, and then we realized it wasn't in the business portion of something that we were directly asking. We were asking indirectly for the same information, like you talked about revenues first, and we ask, are you current, or in good standing with the Department of Revenue Services? It's maybe in phase 2, when we decide there's a project we like, we're like, okay, now we're considering this, but we want to see the returns and make sure that, that would be the next step. But again, that is in these first applications, which we talked about in the subcommittee meetings, to me really was more about qualifying or fitting within a certain box, and the adjudication part, which is what we're discussing now. is coming up.
So this is one of the moments in the meeting where I fell off my chair.
Oh,
And
did
I
you get hurt
no, I'm going to explain it.
last night or this morning? Okay.
Yeah, no, at the meeting last night. And it had to do with the applications. You were just getting into the application section of your meeting. And the consultant said that the application that had been pending in front of you guys really since February, when the consultant presented it, he said very clearly that application reflects the sentiments of the administration, and that these funds that businesses would be applying for would be used to fill losses that have been incurred, he said.
Right.
And that's the underlying theme of those applications. But that theme does not square with the forward-looking theme that he has recommended and that you guys, I think, are now adopting or buying into. And that reverses Tim Ryan's argument altogether, reverses the mayor's argument altogether. And the consultant is saying, don't go with Tim Ryan's, loss theory and the mayor's loss theory. Go with something that's more forward-looking. And I said, holy smokes. And I just, that changes the whole equation. That changes the whole
process. You fell off your chair.
And yeah. And there's a big thing on the floor.
And Tim Ryan came up to the mic or whatever and said that he also supported that. I mean, it's really relative. What kind of moved me towards the forward thinking thing is it's easier to quantify. It's easier to, what are you going to do? Like, let's not just hunker down. Let's keep moving forward, try to grow, try to take the next step, try to, we're not going to give you money to pay for the plexiglass you installed between the booths.
Yeah.
But we're going to give you money to do something else. It might be the same, but this way it's kind of guaranteeing that if it's going to be the government money, that it's a forward motion thing. And the drafts, I mean, that's what we worked off of. The consultant, I really feel like from those 2 months, he came back with a denser or more clear amount of information and experience for what the area was doing. And he wasn't even done, for me anyway, with that initial explanation or thought about, well, what I've seen is forward. And I was like, that's perfect, like, boom. And, you had the whole subcommittee, we worked on the applications pushing forward. You had unanimous council approval on that concept of that idea. So it was something that everybody immediately got behind, and it's.
So there was another aha moment I want to run by and see what you think. I think it was Christina Tata had sort of a list of issues that she ticked through, and one of the issues that she ticked through was community feedback, community involvement, like surveys. And I think the example was, do we bother to go out to the community and see where their interests are, which apparently, a lot of communities do. Tim Ryan, economic development guy, the business development economic development specialist, comes to the microphone and says, no, you don't do that. That's not what ARPA is all about. Not a popularity contest. You don't go out to the community. Consultant comes right back and says, oh yeah, you do. Community engagement is foundational, he said. And I'm hearing this kaboom on, this don't bring in the community argument. Tim Ryan got shut down.
You're really about shutting down Tim Ryan today, huh? Is that
the reversal is that's the bottom line of the story. When it's written up, all the positions that the administration had laid out had been reversed, either by the consultant, by saying community engagement is foundational, and the mayor had gone out of his way to cut out the community from the beginning.
I think part of what the consultant said, though, was part of the community engagement, which I'm in favor of, is that there would be community members on the adjudicating commissions or boards that would be handing out the money. And
first time we heard that. First time we.
it would go beyond just, I mean, because we weren't talking about that at one point. I mean, I know I've said it out loud at some point, but there's how many hours have we had at this point of ARPA meetings?
Yeah.
So I don't favor a survey either, but I do favor the community involvement, and the community's been involved in all these meetings. I mean, that's what's made these meetings 4+ hours long. Everybody that showed up, I've gotten criticized for not holding a tighter rein on the comment periods and time lengths and stuff, because I really wanted everybody to feel like they were listened to in the dialogue, to keep going, and we got a lot of good ideas from it too. So I'm not in favor of survey, and I think that was the core of Tim Ryan's comments. But I'm definitely in favor of the community involvement, and I'm already kind of in my head kicking around. I mean, I want to go into this next subcommittee meeting with a couple of options that I think of anyway, as far as what these awarding committees would look like. And one of them is very, very heavy community leaning.
Hey, this wasn't on our list of topics, but now I got to know, what are some of your preliminary ideas? The preliminary, subject to refinement, I get that.
Sure, yeah. So
you could grow, evolve, I get all that, but what are some of your ideas?
So one of them would be a committee, let's say 15, let's pick 15 people. Each counselor can appoint anybody they want themselves or a committee member. Mayor can appoint 2. Manny Miranda from Youth Social Services would definitely be on there. Somebody EDC wise would definitely be on there. We would talk about getting to the 15 number. I think 15 just, it came up earlier from the consultant as well. I think it probably is a good number. You always need an odd number. And I did talk to Mandy about this. I did not talk to Mayor about it. She would almost kind of be the administrative chairish of it, and kind of moving that forward. Another idea, and it's not that it
Let me just stop you. I wasn't clear with my question. This would be the committee to judge and review the applications, right?
Yeah.
I didn't clear that up when I introduced the topic that I want to. Yeah, go ahead.
And then another one, which could be some sort of modification of the first idea, is would be 2 or 3 different groups, and maybe the 15 divide into 3 groups of 5. I don't know. That would involve the nonprofit portion, and nonprofits like SCOW or Masters Mana, as an example. They may have people from those organizations, because they have a good pulse on the people and the needs, that they would sit in these broken up groups, but in a group where SCOW would not be spread out, or Masters Mana would not be spread out. So the Masters Mana, any application that they had would be overseen by one or both of the other groups, without those people having conflicting things. And I guess you can argue, and that's what we're going to talk about, is are they going to be talking behind the scenes and pat each other on the back? I don't know. We'll figure all that out. But then are we handpicking the nonprofits at that point? Mandy Miranda, Youth Social Services, maybe she can identify the key of the core nonprofits, or do they naturally end up being there by the appointments of the counselors and things like that? So I mean, those are the 2 big ideas that kind of intermingle that I've thought of in the last 4 hours.
I'm not sure you cover this. I just want to sort of be clear about it. When the council picks and the mayor picks for members of this reviewing committee that's going to judge whether someone gets 125,000 or nothing, that's the power that they have. Picking members from the community is somewhat different than counselors picking their friends and their insiders. That's just more inside influence. That's all that is. That's not the community coming in with a fresh set of unbiased eyes. I don't think that's what you said, but you may have.
I guess that's up to the judgment, and that would look poorly on a counselor if they pick their friend.
They pick somebody.
Foundations and organizations in town, business leaders, and things like that.
Pick who you know. I mean, that's the way Wallingford works.
Well, we'll see how it goes. So we're going to talk about it.
All right. There was a lot of discussion about whether the council should address the issue of what percentage of ARPA funds should go into what bucket, what category, for categories being to businesses, to nonprofits, to government services, government projects. And there were percentages kicked around, a vote actually taken. But give us, if you would, the pros and cons of making a decision like that, 25% going here, 50% going there, and so on. What was the nature of that debate?
The nature of the debate, the final outcome was 25% towards nonprofit and 25% toward business, and the other 50% unallocated. That was an amendment that I made from the original motion, which included 50% government projects. And I felt that I wasn't comfortable making the communication to the community that we were already at this point locking up half of it to be used for government projects when there was a need out there. And with that, if it's unallocated, it's government money anyway. So we didn't need to necessarily allocate it to a government fund. It's already in a government fund. We'll just get to decide on how to spend it later. I was very leery of the image that it was going to create.
Now,
so that amendment passed.
The mayor was very strenuous in his objection to this thinking.
To the government project thing.
The percentages, allocating percentages. I have some thoughts on that, but if you could, as best you can, recreate the mayor's thinking, because he's not here on the show. What was the mayor's thinking, and how do you assess what the mayor's thinking? Because you didn't quite go along with what he said, and then I got some thoughts too.
Well, yeah, he thought the application should go out, and then there would be a complete needs assessment then, right? And I did that's where I was coming from our subcommittee meetings, and part of the compromises that came out of it was that I agreed that it couldn't hurt to establish preliminary buckets, because the buckets can change, so it's kind of arbitrary at the same time. The 25% could be arbitrary. We can make it 20%, we can make it 30%. I don't know, but I guess it's a guideline. It is kind of telling the community that during this application period, that if you're a business and you're applying for money, that there may only be $3.25 million available. So, bid accordingly, or, apply accordingly.
Yeah.
There is a benefit to that. It kind of goes back more loosely and indirectly in a gray area to that cap you were talking about.
So I'm going to come back to this percentage thing, but one of the buckets is public sector projects, public sector government services. Yet, neither the council nor the mayor has brought before you department heads. In fact, my information, I think, is rock solid. It's been prohibited. No way is that going to happen. The mayor has discouraged a discussion of public sector money. So how do you know what public projects are out there? You got to dream them up yourself. Let me just finish my thought. And because there is substantial interest on the council and in the community to have some money allocated for public government services, government projects, why not require department heads to come in and just point your finger at the mayor and say, Mayor, you don't get it all your way. You have to recognize there's an interest in public projects we want to hear from. And hopefully those departments don't have a gag order. They may very well.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't. Talk to me about the issue I raised there.
Sure. So doing it that way, that would feel political to me, because what we've kind of settled on is we need the mayor in order to kind of execute these things, just like he needs us. And that was, we did kind of land on that this is we need to work together thing, the two branches of government. I kind of bluntly asked them, I said, are you even going to allow anybody? And it wasn't a direct, like, no, I'm not going to allow anybody, but basically that was the answer, right? Like, no, we're not, I don't believe we should put forward any government projects. I mean, unless, $5 million of need came back from the community and there was just no other applications, and then the mayor might then. But I've said from the beginning that I felt, or I predicted, that this was the case. So, I mean, part of it too is, like, I think we're doing okay. Like the pool, I mean, we can afford the pool, we can bond the pool. Like, I've never not been of that position. And there are other things too that I think we can afford. So I think I'll be more comfortable post application of determining really how much of that we can spend.
Well, here's the evil I'm wary of, and I come from where I'm coming from is watching the mayor early in the game. I think it was in the summer, might even be late spring. He attended a meeting of the South Central Connecticut Region of Governments, a SCROG meeting, and remember the time frame, early summer or late spring. And all of the chief executives of the membership towns, that surround us were going through how they were going to use their ARPA money. And all of them were going to emphasize public projects. And only the mayor said, we're going to use ours for businesses. And he was an outlier. My point is not that he's an outlier. My point is that he made up his mind without consultation with the public, without any community engagement. This was his rock solid position, and everything that has happened since has been sort of edging the council towards that decision that he made unilaterally. Oh, maybe in conjunction with Tim Ryan, but that was the decision he made. Now there's some resistance to his unilateral, position, and seems to me one way, if you take the community seriously, if you respect the community truly, and their wish to have some public projects or government services, you would gather information from the department heads in public and have those department heads go through what they could need. So the council could judge without basing it on rumors or their own personal preference. It's just a more open way of investigating the issue. That could have been done August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, or even April. But it is not being done for a reason. And so now what we're faced, if the mayor had his way, he would send out these applications like, frankly, you and the mayor want to do. Hurry up, get them out the door. And then when they all come back and you see 65 million for businesses, 5 million for nonprofits, oh, there's nothing left over. The needs, so-called, it's cleverly labeled as needs, it's not needs at all, but the needs far outbalance the public sector. And so the public sector uses are drowned out. That's the path we're going down. That's the mayor wanted. I don't know what's going to stop that, but that seems to be where we're going. You react to what I just said, if you would.
The needs part first, because that was the last thing to come up.
Okay.
I think that slightly gets redefined from I need $50,000 because I exhausted my savings account to I need a new HVAC system or refrigerator. So attaching it to some sort of project, I think makes it a little less emotional and probably easier to determine whether it's valuable or as valuable. I don't 100% know this. I'm very confident in saying that the mayor's pandemic experience was hearing from a lot of people, as he often does. It came up in the budget meeting that we had after. We had another meeting after that about our membership to CCM. And one of the reasons why we rejoined CCM several years ago was they came up with a prescription, not came up, but they were partaking in a prescription drug program, and residents of Wallingford, if we were members of CCM, would get a discount. And so we joined, and he would get monthly reports on how much money Wallingford residents saved. I remember the very first report that came in, I happened to be in his office. One person, themselves saved like $2,500. And not only was that on the report, but this person called the mayor, like, in tears, like, thank you so much, X, Y, and Z. He has experiences like that all the time. So I'm certain he was hearing from the businesses and Tim Ryan as well. But I'm also extremely confident, like, I will go to the casino and bet money with you, that he was hearing from the community too. And, was it all heart or emotion that got in the way and committed? Did he have an emotional phone call right before he went to that meeting and he said, no, we're gonna put all the money this way? I don't know.
All right.
Well, as often, he often decides early, especially in public spot. And then he
decided real early. And he, when I saw him at Scrog, he did not have in his heart those needy people. He did not. It was businesses to pay them back for their losses. That was his dogma. That was his ideology. And that's where he was going. And I reject totally that he really has in his heart the needy. He uses the word needs a lot. I think it's very theatrical. And here's why I say that. Because his paperwork doesn't address needs. The application that he approved had nothing to do with the needy. It had to do with revenue loss, which are the fat cats, including maybe those that need. His heart was never with the needy. It was replacing revenue loss. So we can debate that, we'll never agree. I'm just giving you how I look at it. And I follow the evidence, and the evidence is the paperwork and his public statements. And now he's kind of up against it because his vision of giving it to those that had revenue loss seems to be crumbling a bit. I want to change the subject on you. Can I do that? Or did you want to, let's change the subject.
No, sure. No, whatever. I mean, it's your show, right?
That's right. Yeah, let's change the subject. I want to talk about the budget, but very briefly. I did not go to the public hearing on the budget. I just wanted to get from you sort of a reporter's view of the feeling in the room. How many people showed up compared to prior years? What were there, if there was a theme or a consensus, what was it compared to prior years? So take it away. What did you see?
5 people asked questions.
Okay.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. I think the 5th one I wasn't sure about. His wife Debbie also asked questions. And then Jared Liu, Bill Comerford, and then one other gentleman who none of us had ever seen before. He came into the building with us, and he asked a question of Public Works, and it was pleasantly received, just about talking about were there better or more efficient sealants as an example to use when repaving that would endure better, and they're going to look into it, and that was a good idea, that type of thing. Other than that, it was a lot of the same stuff we always hear, a lot of the same questions, and I am confident that these 3 people will be back for each and every one of the other meetings to ask the questions again and then debate the answers. And so it was the least attended since I've been doing the council stuff. Most of the people in the room were department people that were waiting their turn.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, literally, go through. I'm not exaggerating. It was 4 or 5 people.
So I get the feeling, even before you said that, I get the feeling that this year's budget is kind of boring people. I mean, no one's riled up. The tax increase isn't, outrageous. So
what I was surprised about was from those people anyway is it was like we need more police officers. We need another entire public works crew. We talk about like, well, are we doing enough with the roads and whatnot? I mean, the solutions, you can't just hire one more guy. When it comes down to public works, you got to hire a whole crew and then a whole truck or 2 and so on and so forth. So
okay,
it was more recommendations. Do that. Oh, that's great. All that costs money. So I will be curious, and they're going to be watching the show. Then if that is the attack, then we can't hear, well, we can't raise taxes because all we talked about was adding and not cutting anything. Now we're in the middle of this year, but the last year would have been $2.5 million less in the general funds, but we kept $1 million from the Board of Ed that wasn't necessarily, probably necessarily part of the plan. So it's down to 1.5. So I mean, this year's probably going to be similar, and it was the same budgeting strategy coming from the council going in. So this
is a budget question and a pool question, and I didn't tip you off in advance that I was going to ask. So there's $1 million sitting in a pool account left over from last year. If any Tesla moved that, it's not going anywhere. We talked about the pool to death, on this show. But what's the future of that $1 million? If you had your magic wand, would you move that into another category that's more useful, or would that be seen as betraying the pool cause? So would you let that money sit, or?
I don't see it's betraying the pool cause, but I'm not saying to move it either. I'm okay with it, whatever. I voted against that because I thought it was kind of futile. I thought that was political. I thought that was an opportunity for people that weren't necessarily didn't even care about the pool, but made it look like they were at that moment okay with the pool.
Yeah.
It didn't feel meaningful to me. I'm fine with it sitting there, and I'm fine with it as a consideration as we figure out how to do the pool. I would think that we would bond most of it anyway, so I don't know that we would use that $1 million for that purpose. But if it's gonna sit there for now, whatever. We'll bond it, if we need to pay a bill later, I guess, we can move it, but I don't know, I don't have the majority on that anyway, so it doesn't matter what I think.
I mean, it's just what I do. I scrub the financial statements for change that money that we're not using and see if it could be put to better use. And that $1 million is low hanging fruit.
I mean, I can think of, we have other projects. You look at the public works list over the next 5 years. I mean, we've got stuff on that we could.
So I want to change the subject on you again. Data centers. There was a time when everyone was worked up about data centers. Let's get them in. It's a lot of money. But the other side was, no, let's keep them out. It's a lot of noise. There's a lot of excitement, energy, attention drawn to data centers. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission, had a hearing last week when it finally unanimously voted down amending the zoning regulations to allow data centers. And since then, crickets. No one seems to care. No one seems to notice. No letters to the editor. Social media has fallen asleep on the issue, but this was once sort of the centerpiece of Wallingford's future or something. I just talk to me about your reaction to when you learned P&Z voted down data centers.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because then we had people then saying, like, going now rescind the agreement. I'm like, well, the point of the agreement for me was that to get them to the point where they could talk to P&Z and our land use and electric department and all this other stuff. So it all happened as I had hoped or planned. Not that I hoped it would be voted against. I was hopeful that it would work out, but it didn't, because we've got people in line to check on those things, and it wasn't working out. So it's not that it won't come back or can't come back in a better, more meaningful way, but this is the process. This is what I signed up for when I voted for it. I mean, it wasn't, I wasn't in the, like, we need them 100% no matter what. I would love to have one because that would be a wonderful revenue source. But it's with conditions. It's under our conditions, and that did not work out.
So you're not that disappointed, is what I know. Okay. So there was in the paper, 2 different papers, there were 2 comments that I fell off my chair when I learned about this.
Man, you should
gotta get a seatbelt.
Like, fall on the carpet at least.
Got to get a seatbelt. So in the Record Journal reporting, it said that the town planner said that the text amendment that the Planning and Zoning Commission had been considering since September was protective of residents, but he believes that the commissioners made the right decision in rejecting the data centers. Our own staff apparently didn't like the data center idea, yet they had been spending a lot of time crafting language in conjunction with the law department, having meetings, and all along, they were uncomfortable with it. That doesn't seem strange to you in any way? I mean,
I read that as well. I didn't read it as with the against the entire concept of data centers. I read it as this proposal generically.
Okay.
I'm in favor of data centers, but they've got to be done correctly. And in this case, our teams, our commission said that they were not going to meet our community standards.
Well,
I'm totally good with that. And apparently parts of the administration as well.
Yeah, so it just seemed like all along, not seemed like, I'm going to state this as my firm impression, town staff, the law department and the town planner were in favor of the deal. They were championing, this concept and this language, and they acted as if they wanted this. And then after it's defeated, they say, no, didn't want it. Nope. This wasn't, right decision. Planning and zoning did the right thing, but they never said that during the public hearing. They never said to the Planning and Zoning Commission, don't vote for this. But after it's all over, they said, I'm glad they didn't vote for this. It just seemed odd. Maybe not.
Again, I don't see an issue with the concept. I know people in the administration weren't necessarily no, I don't know of anybody actually that was all like data centers at all costs. You know, data centers are bust. And I know there were people that were frustrated with the way that that process was hammering out. And whether they commented or not, I mean, I don't think that's their place to comment during those procedures. I mean, we have the board stay here.
I don't know. I mean, I would think you want staff's honest opinion. Should we do this or not? Let me read you something else or refer to something else on the Hartford Current.
This is the other thing that knocked you on your chair, off your chair.
Yeah, I was off the chair on this one. So just to refresh our memories, the Planning and Zoning staff had crafted a zoning reg that referred to 5 decibels over and above the pre-existing ambient noise level, okay? And this 5 decibels had been in the conversation. It wasn't set as a maximum, but but they're referring to 5 decibels. Well, after this was voted down by the Planning and Zoning Commission, this 5 decibel target is really the better word. The head of GotSpace, the new head of GotSpace, tells the Hartford Current, well, we couldn't have lived with 5 decibels anyway. We couldn't have done that. 5 decibels was too low. We couldn't have put in a data center. All this was an academic exercise that even if it was passed, GotSpace would not have come in. I said, why are we wasting our time? Not only does staff not like it, GotSpace doesn't like it.
I don't, I can't.
What town are we living in? And no one, I mean, I don't get it.
I can't speak for the last GotSpace people. I think he was probably hoping that it could be negotiated. He just wanted to get to the negotiation part. Because when we talked about decibels, we were the same. We're like, that's not us.
Right.
So again, that was my whole like, all right, well, I'll sign off here so you can go speak to that guy. And it didn't fly. So
the Hartford Current says Mike Grella, Chief Operating Officer at GotSpace Data Partners, said Wallingford's low decibel limit would rule out a data center, demonstrating that communities don't understand data centers. I don't know. It seems to me like it's the end of the story now.
It might be. Yeah, I don't think it shows that we don't understand it. But again, it just goes back to, if you're going to be here, this is the box you need to fit into. And they're like, well, we can't do that. I'm like, well, then you can't go here. Not in those spaces anyway.
Yeah. Let's make that the final word. We had another topic, but we'll get to that on another show or something. But thanks for coming on the Citizen Mike Show again. We do appreciate it. Good job. Thank you, viewers, for coming on. I mean, for watching the Citizen Mike Show. And we thank WPAA TV for airing the Citizen Mike Show weeknights at 9. Tom, thanks again. See you next time around.
Thanks, Mike.